Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel for How Did Chelsea Set Up Under Enzo Maresca 2.0. The first video, you guys loved it, and I've been doing some research, going on a website that was recommended by watching a James Lawrence Alcott video on his channel. The guy is amazing, his videos are fantastic. If you don't know who he is, check him out. But StatHead is a website that I have gone on to from his recommendation, and I've looked at the players, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Conor Gallagher and Romeo Lavia to try and put together what the dream was last season. A midfield three of Lavia, Enzo, Caicedo. Look, it's not to disrespect Conor Gallagher, but we have been led to believe for the whole flipping year, Chelsea will sell Gallagher this summer. So within this video, we're going to set Chelsea up in an Enzo Maresca 4-3-3, and we are going to look at what that midfield three could look like. Later on in the video, we're going to start to talk a bit more about whether or not Nkunku, Palmer could drop into those positions if Chelsea are going to sign a striker and a winger. And the good news here, when I've been going through all of these stats and trying to compare, as much as like you guys are going to rip my head off for this, you can't compare Enzo and Caicedo to Wilfred Ndidi and Harry Winks and Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall of Leicester. But in order to understand the way that Enzo Maresca plays, I've compared also the stats of those three players last season at Leicester, and the numbers that we've gone for Lavia were the season at Southampton, which is why Chelsea bought him. So, as you can see up on the screen here, we have got the standard stats for Caicedo, Enzo, Gallagher, and Romeo Lavia. We're going to go through and I'm going to highlight on the screen when I'm speaking about specifics. You guys will hopefully be able to reference it when I highlight it on the screen. So, with an Enzo Maresca side, there is a world where a 4-3-3 would be the formation, and it would mean one of the players in the Chelsea side would have to be a lone pivot. Now, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below as to who that player is. And watch this video, you might change your mind. You might think already it has to be Moises Caicedo. To be quite honest, I was umming and ahhing about this one because if you look at the stats for Leicester last season, Harry Winks was the player that was playing kind of in front of the back line. You might think it should have been a Wilfred Ndidi or whatever, but Harry Winks was receiving the ball when Leicester were playing out from the back, which is what Maresca likes to do. Harry Winks would receive the ball, he'd touch it more than anyone else in the Leicester City team, and then he would move it forward to the likes of Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, who likes to carry the ball forward, start attacks for Leicester, and then, as we even saw at Stamford Bridge, they've got those pacey wingers that can hurt the opposition, get the ball in the box, and Jamie Vardy can finish it. And Jamie Vardy didn't really touch the ball at all last season in an Enzo Maresca team. So the midfield is absolutely key when it comes to the build-up of an Enzo Maresca side. We've already heard to death in the last couple of days since it was announced that Maresca was taking over that it can be very slow. The build-up can be very lateral, side to side, going backwards before we go forwards. And I think the difference when it comes to the comparisons here between the Leicester side and the Chelsea side, technically, Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez are top-tier footballers. When it comes to the tackles that you can see here, Moises Caicedo all season long flying in with the tackles. And the interesting aspect that we can look at when it comes to the touches and the possession, obviously Enzo Fernandez didn't play as many minutes as Moises Caicedo last season, so the fact that the touches are only about 300 apart from Caicedo tells you a lot about what Chelsea try and do to get Enzo Fernandez the ball. If you remember back to the Crystal Palace game, it was one of those matches where I think that someone was showing how many passes Enzo Fernandez made, and then realising how many of them were actually going anywhere was absolutely mental. It was too much, like no one was moving around him. In an Enzo Maresca Chelsea, you'll firmly expect players to be stood still, but it will be the players around that player who's still with the ball who'll be the ones moving in and around the spaces. So when it comes to the passes that we see from Enzo, you can absolutely expect them to be more meaningful passes in the final third especially. So if it's a lone pivot, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, and then the question is, can Romeo Lavia also be one of those 8s that you can see here in this graphic? First of all, let me know in the comments down below, because there's also a world, I'm going to put the graphic up on the screen here, where we could see Romeo Lavia in that defensive midfield role and let Caicedo go forward. But if I keep showing you guys here these defensive actions from Moises Caicedo, particularly the interception numbers and the tackles, Caicedo is just so good at this role. Which is why, as much as I think we should be trying to get a team together where Romeo Lavia, Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo can all play together, I do just think it's going to be so hard for that to happen. But it gets really exciting when you look at this lineup that we have here. If you imagine Reece James going forward into that midfield role alongside Caicedo, Lavia, Enzo, or maybe Gallagher, and Enzo getting forward, if we bring up the pressing statistics this season from Conor Gallagher, if Chelsea do in fact sell him, which is the most likely outcome right now, we're going to miss that. And the thing with Enzo Fernandez is, I don't think Enzo, as much as he does work really hard, he's not going to be that player that's going to be pressing and running and catching players to intercept, make the blocks, make the tackles in the attacking phase of Chelsea's game. If we lose the ball in the opposition half, deeper into the opposition half, is Enzo going to be as effective as Gallagher was this season in that press to win the ball back? So then, that's where you start to think about Romeo Lavia. And then that's also where I've started to look at Cole Palmer. Now with Palmer, when we look at those pass completion stats for this season, it's 10% lower than Moises Caicedo, only an 80.3 pass completion. You've also got to take into account there, a lot of the passes that Cole Palmer tries to make are the passes that the majority of us in the stands didn't even see happening. It's the Fabregas pass that just comes out of nowhere and you're like, blimey. Cole Palmer attempts those all the flipping time. What I loved about Cole Palmer's game this season, which is why I think an Enzo Maresca 4-3-3 with Palmer being an advanced 8 in a midfield with Caicedo as that DM, Enzo as the 8 on the left-hand side. I think Chelsea could see so many benefits and it could allow Cole Palmer to have a bit more free of a role. When we think about what the wingers do in an Enzo Maresca 4-3-3, quite often they're there to try and pin back those fullbacks so that the fullback can't invert, basically, to overload our midfield. Chelsea want to create number overloads in that central area. And what Cole Palmer does is it means that the fullback knows that he's going to want to cut inside on that left foot. But then you've got someone like Noni Madueke who's going to be more than happy to stay really, really wide, which is another element of an Enzo Maresca side. He stays super wide, the fullback can't go, which gives Cole Palmer that license once again to progress up the field, by which time Chelsea have control of the ball, deeper into the opposition territory, and then it's about the forwards. You've got the likes of Noni Madueke who can make those inverted runs, wants it on his left foot inside. Nicholas Jackson through the middle. Christopher Nkunku, brilliant at holding the ball. Possession. If Chelsea are going to be patient, Nkunku can come, rotate in central. We see those rotations with an Enzo Maresca team. Look, the more I look at a 4-3-3, and the more I keep talking here, the more I'm thinking, this is all going to be about whether or not the players buy in early to what Enzo Maresca is telling them to do. All of these different 4-3-3s that we see here, the Gallagher one is the one that is still very exciting for me because I think you cannot take for granted the work that Gallagher's put in. And if we look at the standard stats here, he's got a lot higher returns in terms of those goals and assists this season than both Enzo and Caicedo combined, to be honest. So I think you can't just take those numbers out of this team and expect Chelsea to still be delivering. But wow, the more I look into this here, if you look at Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall's numbers for Leicester this season, it's double figures for both goals and assists. The way that the space was created in the middle to allow him to carry it forward was fantastic to see. That could be Enzo, and I think that is where Enzo Maresca will be trying to develop Enzo Fernandez to make him a bit more of that kind of player. And if it isn't, then Cole Palmer, we absolutely know, as an advanced 8, can do that for Chelsea massively. With the natural width provided by a Mudryk on the left or an Nkunku, Madueke on the right-hand side, or Raheem Sterling even, who I think could be a key player under an Enzo Maresca team. It's very, very exciting, this. I'd love to see a team where we can have Lavia, Caicedo and Enzo all in the same side. And if not, if it is about protecting Caicedo, because he will, I think this season he's just going to become just a level above what we've seen him at before. Protecting him by being able to see out games. You remember how lovely it was as a Chelsea fan if Michael Essien came off or Makelele came off? John Obi Mikel was there. Do you remember those days? I flipping loved those days. And maybe Lavia could end up being that kind of player for Chelsea, where he's just so good at what he does that he comes on and shores things up for us if we're comfortably 1-0 or 2-0 up. I'm looking forward to this season, ladies and gentlemen. I really flipping am. And I'm excited to see what Enzo Maresca does with this Chelsea squad. I think the 4-3-3, the 4-2-3-1, that is the two formations that the Chelsea hierarchy want to see for a possession-based team. And I really do think Chelsea have got the personnel to hurt oppositions and to get what is at the heart of Enzo Maresca's philosophy ticking. I think as much as it's a young team, there is enough technicalities here and ability that players have on the ball and coachable players too. Cole Palmer's worked under this guy before. Lavia's worked under this guy before. These guys are going to understand already what is going to be expected of them. And this could be massive for Chelsea moving forward. I love making these videos. The kind of like, I'm not so great at the like actually talking about tactics and stats and numbers thing because it's not really my style. I'm more of just like an emotive reactionary fan. But if you do like these videos, then please let me know by hitting the like on it. Subscribe to GBFC if you want me to look at other options if it comes to sign-ins and like really homing in position by position, whether we really do have a perfect Maresca starting 11. These are the times where we can speculate, we can gossip, we can dream. And I'm loving it. I really am, not going to lie. I like Enzo Maresca. I'm liking him. He's done nothing. This is the positivity we need. Ladies and gentlemen, subscribe if you're new. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Come on, you Blues.